I think I had said this in something else I went live in, but if I haven't, then let me allow to introduce this. Um, so I'm trying to make a correlation between breathing and and gene expression, right? And so basically like uh, neuron expressions, right? Because if neurons are are the building blocks of our emotions, then um, then that's what our breathing is targeting. So I feel like whenever our emotions are regulated, it's done by breathing. Um, the the reasons why our emotions become dysregulated is because our breathing. And I think what's going on is either one, we're not getting enough oxygen to um, these regions of the brain, or um, it can be an inconsistent amount of oxygen, basically, that is not reaching the brain rate. So inconsistent means either too much or too little. And so what happens is that our 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 amygdala, right, which is responsible for our fight or flight, kicks in. It produces cortisol, and and this cortisol is what is used to regulate. Um, I'm assuming the cortisol is used to regulate the heart rhythm. That's why our body produces it when we're in the fight or flight mode. That's why it's there. The cortisol is there. It's a stress hormone. It's induced by the by the amygdala with the help of probably with the help of the hippocampus and probably other areas. But for as far as I remember him, it's just the amygdala and the hippocampus that kind of that kind of that kind of really like produce not produce but is one of the building blocks of cortisol because like it has this process where um it's like ATH or ACTH or AHTC or something like that, where that thing is broken down and ultimately right when it hits your bloodstream, it becomes cortisol because that's that's like I guess a better like a better like a it's like a better match to it's a better match for it to attach to your blood cell, right? The red blood cell specifically. And so, and if you're not familiar with the red blood cell is basically like a helper cell, right? It just carries oxygen and um and in some cases, like when stress is induced, right, the fight or flight response, it carries cortisol. And this thing, and so your red blood cells is carrying that cortisol from your brain, and that thing is going through your heart, dude. That every red blood cell eventually goes through your heart. And so um, I'm wondering where, at some point, where does this cortisol realizes like, hey, I no longer need this amount of cortisol because the situation is being resolved or has been resolved, or basically the fight or flight response is gone. And so, from what I learned in the psych textbook, is that eventually goes back to its original function. I think it's called like the senile inotropic hormone or the xenotrophin hormone or something like that, right? Basically goes back to its original format. Um, but anyways, so my question is that, or what I'm trying to say, right? I'm trying to make a correlation or basically a theory that based on either conscience or subconscious, or based on our conscience or our subconscious, our breathing changes when we're angry, sad, um, joyful, right? These different types of feelings, right? And these feelings also um, connect to the neurotransmitters, right? So oxytocin, they say that's the freaking love, right? When you feel love, or bonding, basically, right? Bonding is a bonding thing. Dopamine, that's an excitement. So when you're joy, you get a lot of dopamine, right? And serotonin is linked to like sadness, which is also linked to the form of depression, right? And um, so like I think what is going on is that we're branching off so many things that it's hard to pinpoint the relationship between things, right? And ultimately I think what it comes down to is oxygen levels. If we can, if that's why, like, there's people who, therapists, clinicians, whoever it is, right? There's people who say breathe, breathe, relax, breathe, especially when you get upset or when you have anxiety or when you're like depressed or whatever it may be. They tell you to breathe, right? Breathe, breathe. And you know what's the best thing to breathe to? Is that's why exercise, dude. Exercise is the best thing you can possibly do for breathing, right? So when you get upset or when you get sad or whatever it is, right? Breathe. Those will help stimulate these neurons that are being malfunctioned, right? Um, and so I think that's what happens or I would say what happens to a person who develops a disorder is because they have irregular breathing that ultimately burnt out um, those neurons that are functioning together in order to sustain a equilibrium, right? To form equilibrium, and so that I think that's what's going on, right? And so once you kind of like destroy that region of the brain that is activated with oxygen, then it's kind of like it's kind of like trying to like get water trying to get water down a clogged drain, right? It'll happen. It may or may not happen. It may or may not get unclogged, right? You can force it, or it's just like it's kind of like a river, like a dam, basically, right? It's kind of like a dam where um, it's narrowed, it's kind of blocked, but um, there's ways to get through it, right? Whether that's freaking um, being oversaturated with water and breaking through it, right? Or some type of control source where the humans um, allow water to bypass. But I think that's a very like poor example of a dam. I would just say it's more like I don't know, just like build up. I would say it's like, but what can I use as an example that kind of build it has like build up on the on the on the edges of its surface, but then in the center, uh, it still allows water to flow through. I would just say like an artery, right? That's why people have what is it called, like heart attacks, because their artery gets clogged with cholesterol, right? Um, and so like I guess I'm assuming like when the person has a heart attack, they like I don't know if it's a medicine or whatever it is, right? The pumping on the chest, um, it kind of like there's so much pressure built up or whatever, it actually like goes through or whatever, right? Um, there's so much cholesterol built up, right? That I guess like I don't know what they kind of I don't know if they use. I think that's like something's lodged. There's no oxygen. They do the CPR. Um, but I'm like I said, I'm not a doctor. But anyways, back to what my train of thought is like oxygen. I think um, I think the way we breathe has has some type of connection um, to our mental health. And I would say my hypothesis would be lower breathing equals creates equilibrium, because I think what happens is that's why when we're exhausted, we go to sleep and our breathing slows down. Our breathing slows down, and I think that's what it is. It's like that's how we're supposed to be breathing, right? I think we're supposed to be breathing really slow, short breaths, or maybe it's long breaths when we breathe. I don't know, but I think that's how we're supposed to be breathing the whole time. But due to different different things that go on in our in our daily lives, it tends to have us breathe in a certain way, right? And that breathing may shorten, sharpen, um, depending on our day, right? Someone someone freaking cuts us off, and we're just like, oh, right? Like that, taking in all that oxygen, right? I don't think it's really good. Taking in too much oxygen, right? But then I think it's I think like our body realizes that it's a different type of like breathing, right? Um, maybe it's like I don't know, because I could be like, well, I'm stating like exercise is really good, right? Um, but then you're breathing hard during exercise. You're like, oh man. But then I think like if you get a kick out of the exercise, maybe that's what like kind of adds maybe a different type of molecule to that oxygen, right? Um, like a beneficial molecule, right? Where it goes to like I don't know, like through the heart or wherever it like to the heart, because everything all the blood goes to the heart. Um, and so when you're breathing in that oxygen, it eventually got to go through the heart so it can attach to the red blood cell. And so like maybe in some sense when you're breathing in, you're breathing in like different molecules depending on how you feel, right? Um, and these molecules are the ones that stimulate these neurotransmitters, right? What if that's a precursor to um, to activating a neurotransmitter or a hormone, right? What if that's what it is? It's a precursor, um, because like I hear people say this is like Um, like if you got a healthy gut, you got a healthy mind. You are what you eat. Um, and so that's what I kind of watched on the video where um, you get these different nutrients or minerals from 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 what you eat, and these things help um, help you regulate your your body, right? So there's like different things. Like for example, what I just learned was like iron, right? Iron is what helps carries the oxygen more efficient through your blood. So and that's why people who have low iron, they have um, they have like anemia. They get cold faster, right? And I think that has to do with low levels of blood, right? Low, even though the iron is low, I think if you don't have enough iron, then you're not getting a lot of oxygen, right? And if you're not getting a lot of oxygen, then then you're not breathing properly because if because you need oxygen in order to breathe because oxygen um, is what allows the um, the heart to pump, right? So that's why the heart is pumping so it can basically like help the lungs out, right? So the heart is assistance to the lungs, and the lung is assistance to the heart. Um, but then that also plays a part to your intestines because your intestines is the ones that are giving um, some of these minerals to the lungs and right that kind of helps the heart um, pump through pump like the blood, right? These red the red blood cells, um, and that kind of says about anemia, right? And so if there's not enough oxygen, if there's not enough iron to help the oxygen get from the lungs to the heart, then it's going to have low blood cells, right? Because what's the point of producing a bunch of blood cells, red blood cells, if you don't have enough oxygen, if you don't have enough um, iron or uh, blood cells to grab the oxygen from your lungs, right? Um, so that's why I've been saying this for like a long time is like is that or not I just kind of made up this thing just recently when I was like hearing it in my psych biopsych class or inside the biopsych class that I'm taking. Um, uh, oxygen. I don't know why it came up to me, but I don't know what they were talking about oxygen. Oh shoot! Oh, the teacher was talking about like body fluids, how it's good to drink lots of water, right? But I don't think that. I don't think drinking a lot of water is beneficial to you. Um, maybe in some sense it has its ups, but I think it's more of a con because um, I think the more we drink water, the more we're utilizing, the more our body has to metabolize it, right? And so, and so what happens? I'm thinking uh, like I think whatever we use, it gets absorbed through one of our intestines. I think our large intestines, and then and whatever we don't use, it gets how does it go? It goes into does it go in, does it go into our kidney and then it's filtered from our kidneys into our bladder and then from the bladder it goes outwards or or does it go into our liver and then it goes to our bladder? Um, yeah, I don't really know. Like I said, I'm not a doctor like or someone who's pursuing so much of that kind of knowledge, but um, I what I'm thinking if I'm remembering it right, I think it goes into our kidneys. Our kidney filters it, but I think our kidneys filters our blood, and then the toxins are like somewhere something else. So then I think it's our liver, right? I think it's our liver, maybe our liver. I don't know, but I think if you drink so much water, even if you drink the certain amount that they're giving us, it destroys us. It's causing more harm than good, right? These waters, because it's like, yeah, water is responsible maybe for giving us some oxygen a little bit, right? And it's vital, right? It is vital to life. But I think it's kind of like it's kind of like, I would say, a certain dose of water is good for us, right? And so like how they kind of say, like anything that is excess is unhealthy, like moderations in dose, right? Dosages in moderation, right? Um, and I kind of look at animals, dude, like maybe because they're smaller species, right? Or whatever it is, like even bigger species, they like you look at a freaking like a tiger or like anything, right? They have like these things are way bigger than us. They're like 300 pounds, right? 300-pound tiger, 300-pound lion, possibly even more, right? There's some animals that have more mass than us. And I think they're drinking way less water than we are. And so what does that say? That 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 we're consuming way too much water. We're consuming way too much water for our size. And that's why I say, like, these recommendations of drinking, like, I don't know, like, I think it's like you have to drink like, what is it, like 72 ounces of water daily, right? It's like, I think like 8 cups of water, right? And if each cup is like, I think it's like 8 ounces. So that's like 64 ounces or something like that of water daily, depending on your size and your weight and stuff like that. But I think typically it's like 60 ounces of water daily, right? Um, which is, I think it's like equivalent to, like, I think you have to drink like 5 water bottles a day in order to like maintain some type of healthy urination, right? Because they're like, well, if your urination is like this color, then you're like overhydrated, dehydrated. Um, but I don't think that's the case. I think we're drinking way too much water. We need to cut it down a little bit, um, and increase the beneficial food that we intake. Right? I don't know why I'm saying this, because I eat poorly. Like my diet isn't the best diet. Even if like you were like, well, that's not even a diet, right? But I would just say my eating habits. My eating habits ain't the best. But I would love to eat healthy, right? I would love to eat um, green beans, peas, carrots, onions, tomatoes, like just different like vegetables and fruits, right? Um, because I know that these are really good for us, right? Really healthy. Um, and I would eat a little bit of meat. Like I don't, I would say like maybe like I'm not a fan of fish, right? I think I only ate fish like maybe like once, twice, maybe 3 times in my life. But that's just like, I guess I'm assuming like fish is pretty good, right? It has like omega 3s and stuff like that, fatty acids. Um, and so like I'm assuming like that would probably be like my diet if I could, right? If it wasn't so expensive, or if I wasn't in the predicament that I'm in, where I'm constantly being bombarded with sugar. Um, sulfur, um, like freaking gas, right? I'm being poisoned, and so I think what these people are trying to do, I think I said it before, I even wrote it down, is that they're trying to make me develop. They're trying to develop cancer in me if I don't already have it, right? Um, and so, and what happens is like when you stress the body long enough, it mutates, right? It causes mutations. Kind of going off on a tangent. Like, how am I going to be talking about like the way we eat and oxygen and all that stuff, right? But uh, basically, so what happens is like I'm gonna say this real quick is that cancer lives off of sugary substance, fructose, basically glucose, right? And so by them like constantly bombarding you with these different chemicals, it's causing a mutation, and they're feeding the mutation by um, by giving me sugar, right? Like that, there's somehow, some way they made sugar aerosol, and so like majority of the nights I breathe it in, I can smell it, I can taste it. Not only that, they're and then they're weakening my immune system by um, by using animal dung feces, right? Um, so they're trying to lower my defense mechanism like that, um, and so that way uh, my cells have a harder time to fight the cancerous cells. Not only that, if I develop diabetes due to like the sugar intake, and then with a weaker immune system, that also is gonna play like the poop, basically the feces, is also gonna help lower my immune system, so it can't fight the diabetic or the diabetes. Then it's just like the downhill effect from there, right? Um, so, but anyways, that's why like I think like me um, being able to exercise and eat healthy when I can or when I want to, it kind of like increases my chances of living, right? And not only that, I think it's kind of like what you believe is true, right? It like the placebo effect, right? If I believe that I'm gonna get sick, then I'm gonna get sick because that's what I'm thinking. But if I'm thinking like, hey man, like I'm not gonna let this get the best of me, I'm gonna overcome it. I'm accepting the challenge, then I'm gonna be all right. Okay, but and that has to do with breathing, getting that oxygen, man. That oxygen is crucial, and I think that's like like there's been stories about how once upon a time Earth was filled with oxygen, that there was an there was like, I don't know how it's called, like abundancy, maybe be making up a word, but there was basically like the oxygen, there was high levels of oxygen, right? And and I think that's why people were living a lot longer, and that's why you had um, bigger species, right? That's why species during those times of high, during the times of Earth having high oxygen levels, there were bigger species, right? Um, and so maybe that's what killed the dinosaurs, right? Something came, destroyed like a forest, right? And that like diminished the oxygen so much that anything that was like had a high intake of oxygen just kind of died, right? I wouldn't say all of them, but most of them, right? Some learned to survive, and so that's how you got the mutations. because the oxygen level changed. And this is the same thing was going on with us is that the depletion of the Amazon down in like South America is having an effect. Like everything's connected. Everything's connected. Everything is connected, whether we like it or not. Our whole ecosystem is connected, and 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 that's why I say oxygen helps regulate things. The more oxygen, especially, I'm kind of coining this, right? I would say healthy oxygen. I don't think all oxygen is healthy, right? I think there's different kinds of oxygen, right? Like I said, there's like a happy oxygen where you're just like, oh man, like hell yeah, like right that creates that dopamine, right? I think there's an oxygen for dopamine. There's an oxygen for serotonin, oxygen for oxytocin, dopamine, uh, serotonin, acetylcholine. Um, basically, like kind of like the eight transmitters, possibly even for hormones, right? There's an oxygen for hormones. Um, but I could be wrong, right? I could be totally wrong, but maybe oxygen doesn't really play a role in all this stuff. But maybe it helps regulate different stuff where it gets to the point where it's needed, and then from there, it's like basically I would say oxygen's a precursor. Could be oxygen could be a precursor to um, to a lot of things, and that's why we need it. It's essential. Oxygen, that's why it's in water, um, and like I don't know, like it's I think it's maybe what if that's the only thing we need to live? What if oxygen is the only thing we need to live? But I don't know if that's true um because like they're like, oh well, after a certain amount of days, um you need to eat and you need to drink because your body becomes weak and all this stuff, right? But what if that's a dependent? Like what if like psychologically um we're made to think that way, right? And um so our genes are have like an expression to the point or just like a phenotype or a genotype um where it's there, maybe encoded, maybe it's just somewhere, right, in our DNA. It manifested somewhere in our DNA because after so many times of experiencing or just wanting or just changing um, our DNA structure, it has been embedded into it, right? Because like there's like I don't know, like this Christianity Bible, even like other Bibles, the Quran, right? Maybe even I think the Jewish Bible, um, like they want you to fast, right? No water, no food for a couple of days, um, and so like what? Why? Why would they want? Why would that instruct us to do that? Right? If it was bad for us, if it wasn't like if we weren't supposed to be doing that, then why is it telling us? And almost every religion is saying like like to fast or don't eat certain stuff. Has to be some truth if it's kind of in there, right? Different sections of the world are talking about how we should fast or what we shouldn't eat. Um, but I know I'm going off topic, but I just think that ties back to the oxygen level. Maybe oxygen is pretty much all we need, right? Um, maybe I'm wrong because like I look at trees, right? Well, what do they use to eat? They eat freaking basically fertilization, poop. If you give a tree poop, then you're giving it nutrients, right? Um, so, but I don't know because I think back to the Christian Bible where it says anything that goes in your body and stays in your body is healthy, but anything that goes in your body and comes out of your body is um, is like defiled. Basically, is not like good for you. So then shouldn't be eating poop, right? If that's what's coming out of us, then it's not good for us, right? That's why the body's kind of like throwing that out. So maybe it's just maybe that's why trees produce stuff that like fruits and vegetables because that's their poop, right? What if that's their poop, right? Um, but then you can also think of it like that's their kids, right? Their offsprings. If they're like having it, then that's their offsprings. But then you can kind of say like maybe it's their poop too at the same time. Maybe it's poop surrounding the offsprings because some of what is it? Vegetables? No, fruits have seeds. Vegetables don't. So so then what if we're supposed to like I don't know like what if there's what if it's just poop? What if it's not like I'm just like I don't know like people would be like, no, it's not poop. Like they're the whole freaking the sequence of the molecules are so different than poop, right? But it's like our if you were to make a an ecosystem, right? So that would mean that right if you were trying to keep a tree alive, right? Then you would need two things. You would need water and some source of fertilization, right? And so you can probably use like decomposed leaves and decomposed like fruits from the tree to use fertilization, right? To make some type of fertilization to keep the tree alive. Um, maybe that's why the trees grow because of decompositions, right? Kind of like their own way of living. Um, so what's wrong with humans? Why can't we sustain our own way of living, right? Is poop really bad for us? Maybe it is, right? Maybe it's not, but maybe it is now due to like um, due to the fact that we haven't had it in a long time, right? Maybe like years, right? Years and years, like decades, millenniums, freaking whatever, right? Centuries of not being able, not eating it has mutated our body to the point where it's 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 less beneficial to us because dude, I look at animals, dude, especially like hamsters. If when you feed them this like pet store food, right? Like, oh yeah, like this is all you need to feed. your hamster, right? You feed them that, and then like you see your hamster and it's eating its poop. You're like, what the hell? There's something in the poop that gives them the nutrients, right? That makes them want to eat it because the the nutrients are there, right? Um, like I don't know why. Like maybe it being exposed to oxygen changes the molecules, the molecular structure of that poop. Um, what like um, I don't know. Um, it's just it's crazy, dude. It's crazy, and even like there's weird behaviors. They're not weird, but people might call them weird. I just say there's behaviors in animals that um, that may be the solution to our problems. Anyways, I just think back to what I was my main back to my point. Oxygen. I think oxygen causes um, causes feelings, moods, and emotions, or it can be a precursor. One of the two. Either it's a precursor to the different types of behaviors, right? Or it is the cause to our behavior. But eventually, someone's gonna piggyback off what I'm saying. They're gonna be like, "Oh, shoot! Like, okay, yeah, yeah, he's right. Oh no, he's wrong. Right? We're gonna test it." But I think I might be right because there's a lot of studies where they're like, exercise is good for your health. Exercise is good for your health. Right? Muscle memory. Um, and that's what I learned in the child development class that I was taking, the Psych 38. Um, is that there's two main things that will basically keep you young is the way you eat and the way you breathe. Exercise. But I just think it's the way you breathe. Exercise is like a better way of breathing probably. Not a better way, but it's just like a way to like maybe burn off the excess oxygen that we have. Right? Dude, like maybe we ate too much something that had too much of this and so we need to burn off some of that oxygen, some of that ATP, right? And so that way it'd be good. Because I don't know, I don't know if too much exercise is unhealthy. Could be, right? Putting too much stress on the body, different bone structures, different ligaments, and all that stuff. Um, but we'll see. It would be interesting. It would be really cool to do research on how breathing may be tied to emotions, different emotion regulation, may be tied to uh, irregular emotions or feelings and mood. Um, yeah, so much back and forth. They thought that I was in. They're just waiting. I should just keep the live on, but then I'm gonna have to play. Then I'm gonna have to play over there. I just feel like putting the thing by my door, so that way Everyone can see the people that keep going back and forth. I don't know why, but I just feel like that someone's hiding something. Someone's hiding something else, right? Or maybe it's just like, oh, that's that's causing him stress. So we'll just keep pretending, right? Could be it too. All right. Bye bye. Tired.